What's going on, guys? I'm Steve. I am at FF by Committee, and this is the second episode of the Fantasy by Committee podcast. This week, I am joined by Michael, Hutch, and Jeff. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I am really excited to dive into the show. We have busts, safe plays, sleepers, guys who ruined your entire season last year, some heartbreak, some ice cream flavors. We got everything we're going to throw at you. Guys, are you ready for Fantasy by Committee?
Always.
Heck yeah, let's go.
So ready.
All right. In the words of Hutch, it's time for Fantasy by Committee. So let's go.
Inside scoop. Do you want to get the upper hand and put together the best game plan? Then welcome to Fantasy by Committee.
All right. So big thank you to my buddy Ben Michaels. He's at Ben Michaels on TikTok. He made our theme song. I really appreciate the time he took to do that. Guys, let's dive into some fantasy football stuff, shall we?
Let's do it.
Right off the bat, I want to talk about some drafting stuff. Redraft season is upon us, and it is time to help the people win their leagues. So we're going to start with safe picks. Mike, give us your safest pick for this season.
Let's do it. And I'm gonna go with a guy that has burned people in the past because people want him to be more than he is. And I think now we've kind of reached the point where he's become a value. That's Christian Kirk, a guy that recently got overpaid drastically. He got paid a boatload of money to become to the Jaguars, which is what it takes to become a Jaguar. But he got paid to be their guy. He got paid $70 million to be just that. He's competing with Evan Ingram, a guy that has never become and hit his potential. He's competing with Marvin Jones, who looked like total dust last year, and Zay Jones, who has been nothing but dust ever since entering the league outside of a little brief stint with the Raiders. So he has all the opportunity in the world with a Trevor Lawrence ascending quarterback, a guy that is still the great prospect he always was. And I just find myself snapping up Christian Kirk in every league I can in PPR. As my wide receiver 4 or 5, he's going to be the one for the team. I just like the value very much.
He does carry that value, right? Do you guys agree? I kind of like that, right?
I
Christian
do.
Kirk?
Yeah, I like this pick a lot because the Jaguars, there's very little competition around Christian Kirk. And the Jaguars, while they could be a better team this year, I think they're actually a sleeper kind of team this year to be actually competing in their division because their division is pretty weak right now. They're still not going to be a great team. They're still going to be behind in some games. Their defense is still not great. Even if Trevor Lawrence takes a big step forward, that defense is going to let them down. And it's going to end up with them being behind in a lot of games. And they're going to have to throw the ball. And Christian Kirk is just going to be the clear number one target. So I like that pick a lot. I think it's a very safe pick because a lot of volume is going to be there. Even if it's coming from potentially bad quarterback play or good quarterback play, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a lot of volume here for Christian Kirk. And I think it's safe. I think naming Christian Kirk a very safe pick is a great label on him.
Nice. Jeff, do you agree?
Yeah, I can get there. I think that, I don't know. It's difficult for me because I think that we're kind of downplaying Marvin Jones's role a little bit. I think we're downplaying maybe Zay Jones's role a little bit. Marvin Jones has a great career of production, and he was really kind of their primary receiver last year. Zay Jones coming in, he broke out towards the end of last year with the Raiders, and they brought him as well. Obviously, completely different dollar commitment there. They also have Evan Ingram, but that we've heard a little bit of differing camp stories out of there. I don't know, Hutch, you're an Eagles fan, and when you had Doug Peterson there as the Eagles coach, was there really a standout receiver during that time? I feel like
there wasn't, but there wasn't many standout talents either, though.
Yeah,
is Christian Kirk a standout talent?
Aguilar, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. When you talk about, you talk about those guys Alshon Jeffrey had a couple nice seasons for fantasy for the Eagles, but outside of him, there was no really standalone talents for the Eagles wide receiver core. It was really their tight ends that really did good for fantasy. So, yeah. And to Marvin Jones, the point of Marvin Jones, when you look at his game logs last year, he actually started to, he did see a lot of targets in the season, but I don't know. I feel like towards the end, it got more on and off with how used he was. And I feel like it's going to be more like that this season. And also, it's another year older. He's like 33 now, 10 years in the league. Like, I don't see it. Like, brought in all these receivers. I think they're done with him. I don't see him being a focal point of this offense.
I think he has that role. I think he has that role where Marvin Jones will be the red zone guy. Like, people bring it up. He had like 15, 17. It was something around there in red zone targets, and he only scored 1 touchdown. So if regression comes to Marvin Jones, it's on that end. And Christian Kirk, the one last point I want to bring up with the targets is vacated targets doesn't always translate. I'm not going to say he's just going to step in and be that guy. But he had 20 and 24% of the target share as a rookie and sophomore. And then Cliff Kingsbury came in second year. They traded for Hopkins, and that target share dipped. And Cliff Kingsbury offense spreads it around to the wide receiver 4. So I think there was untapped potential that Christian Kirk was flashing, that he was really held back because of the circumstances around him. And now he has that chance. He has that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. I like the fact that you went with a safe pick that's a deep player, though, because you kind of went different. A lot of people go with that first-round pick, right? Like that elite player that's going to absolutely deliver for you. And you're like, no, go late. Go late.
Cooper Kupp is so safe, Steve.
It's interesting. It's interesting that when you look at the later rounds of fantasy football, I'm usually personally like I do like Christian Kirk. I think he's a very safe player. The problem is I don't get him in a ton of drafts because when I look at later rounds, I'm looking for upside. I'm looking for guys that can win me in my league. I mean, guys going around like Kadarius Toney, for example, going near Christian Kirk. I would much rather draft him because his athleticism, his speed, and his opportunity to be the Giants' #1 wide receiver this year, that just sets him up to have top 15 upside this season for fantasy. While Kirk, he is talented, but he's not anything. He doesn't have anything special like Toney does with his yards after catch ability. So I don't see as high of an upside for Christian Kirk. So as a result, given that he's a safer pick rather than upside play, I don't get him too much in drafts. But if you do need, like, if you like waited on your wide receiver 3 and you do need somebody back there, he's absolutely there for you. He can definitely fill in that role. But later in the drafts, I tend to look for more upside, which is why I haven't ended up with a ton of Kirk. But I do still like him in drafts. He's definitely a safe option.
I do as well. Well, Hutch, you seem to be on a roll. So why don't you give us your safe pick, and we'll see if the committee agrees with you.
All right. I think Michael already wrote it that he loves my pick, so I already got one here. I'm going to go with DJ Moore, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers. I mean, he's over the past couple seasons, he's just put up 1,104, sorry. Like 1,150 yards, 4 touchdowns the past 2-3 seasons. And this is with horrific quarterback play. I mean,
which is not getting any better, by the way.
And I think it's definitely not great, but it's better than where it was. Even if Baker Mayfield, if we see Baker Mayfield comes out and he is like what he was last year, injured and horrible, he's still going to put up 1,150 and 4. He's that's what he does, even with horrific quarterback play. There's still very little competition around him for targets. I mean, he is just going to be the dude for this receiving game. And there's also upside with DJ Moore because if Baker Mayfield were to perform at a level higher than what he's ever had, which honestly with the quarterbacks he's had in his past, I think that you could easily project Baker Mayfield to be easily the best quarterback he's ever played with. I could see 1,200, 6-7 touchdowns this season, and that's approaching top 12 territory. So I think DJ Moore going in the 4th round or even 5th round I've seen in some drafts, I think that is an absolute just great safe pick as your wide receiver 2 with some wide receiver 1 upside.
Sure. Jeff, do you agree with that?
I do. I found in my experience it feels like somebody's always willing to go on DJ Moore a little bit earlier than I am. So I feel
in analyst leagues he's usually going earlier.
Yeah, analyst leagues, they really love themselves.
Yeah, he's sharp.
People are sharp on Twitter as well. If you say anything bad about DJ Moore on Twitter, you get droves of people coming.
At what point are we going to put a little bit of his lack of touchdown production on him?
Well, that's kind of my point. That's a little bit of my concern. I think he's, I mainly try to gravitate towards dynasty. That's kind of my role at Football Guys, and that's where I look at things right now. And do we really think he's going to be a wide receiver 1 this season? I think that you can get pretty deep going into the wide receiver 1s, and he kind of strikes me as a mid wide receiver 2. So he's safe there because that's his ADP. That's kind of what you're expecting to get there. And you're right that there is some upside there, but at the same time, it's one of these that, especially in Dynasty, I think he's a little bit older than maybe people start to realize because having Baker Mayfield there, are we going to get Baker Mayfield next year? Are they going to get a real quarterback next year? Is Baker Mayfield going to win them enough games to take them out of that? It's one of these that, I think he's just one of those guys that he's a mid-wide receiver too, and he goes in that range, and that's fine. It's just, I think you're right, he is a safe pick.
I think that's a fair play with it. I will say, I think people, this is not a popular opinion, but it is my opinion, and it's my show, so I'm going to give it. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is the best quarterback that DJ Moore, including Baker Mayfield, will have ever played with.
Oh, man. Yeah,
That's hurt me
I
too.
can't get behind that one. I still
supported
believe that
2,000-yard receivers in Carolina.
Yeah, no, I can't go with that.
Teddy,
I'm sorry, Baker Mayfield. I don't believe that Baker is like a great NFL quarterback. I think he's still a starting caliber quarterback, and Teddy Bridgewater is not.
I don't know. I like Teddy. I think the Panthers' biggest mistake was not signing Jameis and instead signing Teddy Bridgewater. I think the Saints should have kept Teddy, and Carolina should have signed Jameis. If you want to be a vertical offense, why not go get Jameis Winston and let him just sling that ball all over the field? That
would have been good, yeah.
But anyway, that didn't happen. So, if any NFL teams need a new general manager, hello, I'm available. Jeff, give us a safe pick.
I went cop out. I took Justin Jefferson. I took the route of taking the early guy. I think that he was 167 targets last year, just too short of being second in the league in targets, and he's stepping into that Cooper Kupp role. I think we have some questions about, is Adam Thielen going to continue to be productive? Is KJ Osborne really that third, second threat within that offense? I think this offense is really going to flow through Justin Jefferson. That defense was bad. They were bottom 10 in points per game. So I think that's one of those, he's just primed to take off. And he's a very safe pick, and you're going to have to use an early pick on him because that's where he's landing. But I think that you feel pretty comfortable that he's due to really deliver that wide receiver one season.
Sure. Now, I have gone on the record, and you can scrub my Twitter account if you want. I have said Justin Jefferson should be the 101 in any league that rewards PPR. Wow. Is that too high?
I've got him at 3. I mean, I'm at 3 with him. After Christian McCaffrey and JT, I'm taking him. I mean, I genuinely see a world where Justin Jefferson hits 2,000 yards this season. And I think after this year, he could be the consensus wide receiver one in the NFL, no doubt about it. Over Devonte Adams, over Cooper Kupp, over everybody else. I absolutely see after this season, he could be that guy. He's only gotten better in his first 2 seasons. I absolutely love Jefferson for this season. I almost in my wide receiver rankings, I do tiered rankings tiered positional rankings. I want to put Justin Jefferson in his own tier at number 1.
Yeah,
I want to so badly. And
I'll tell you, in my projections, it's like a stupid projection. I have him at 1,800 yards, just projected. That's where I have him at. It's absurd.
That's not crazy at all.
Yeah,
I think he's going to absolutely hit that this year.
I asked this. I put this out there, and I'm curious if you guys agree or think this is crazy. I said Justin Jefferson this year feels like someone who's either going to break Randy Moss's touchdown record or Calvin Johnson's yardage record. Is that absurd?
No. Justin Jefferson's been due for a lot of positive touchdown regression, and it's mainly over his career so far. It's mainly due to Adam Thielen and his, hogging of touchdowns in the past 2 seasons. And I really believe Adam Thielen, we're going to see a dip for him this season, especially coming off this serious ankle injury. I think we're going to see a dip this season. I know there have been a couple reports saying he looks good. Every team says that about all their players, that they look good.
Yeah, I can't imagine too many teams are just sending reports out there he sucks. I don't know what to tell you.
No one's doing that. That doesn't happen. Adam Thielen, I personally think he is done this year. I think this is the year we see him really fall off and lose some touchdowns. I think that Jefferson could absolutely break Randy Moss's touchdown record. And I think that Calvin Johnson's receiving yard record, doesn't that belong to Kupp now?
No, it doesn't. No. I made the same mistake, and people crucified me for it. So I will save you from that mistake.
He didn't beat it, did he? No, he was only 30 yards short behind him, right? Yeah. Yeah, dang. Yeah. So he could absolutely beat that record this year.
Mike, Jeff, do you guys think a record could be broken by Justin Jefferson this year?
I absolutely think so. Before touchdowns.
Yards before touchdowns.
Right, man.
I go yards as well, just because he.
Yeah, I would bet on yards as well.
To quote a famous line, he is that guy. And if Adam Thielen isn't done, Justin Jefferson can still do that, because Justin Jefferson is the yards of that offense, is the PPR of that offense, is the receptions of that offense.
Yeah, if we see a more pass-heavier offense this year, he put up 1,400, 1,600 plus yards his first 2 seasons, and this has been one of the run-heavier teams in football. if this team with Kirk Cousins as a quarterback takes a step in passing attempts and becomes like a top 12 team in pass attempts, oh my goodness, like that's danger.
Right. If he's getting Cooper Kupp's offensive coordinator is playing the Kupp role, you just line the two guys up. I would every day of the week take Justin Jefferson, the athlete, over Cooper Kupp. I mean, come on.
Wow. I think I would. I think Justin Jefferson right now behind Davante Adams is the best receiver in the NFL.
Yep. I completely agree with that. And I've taken Justin Jefferson 101 in Dynasty. In redraft, I'm still.
Oh, Dynasty, yes.
Dynasty, absolutely.
Dynasty, I'm
Absolutely.
still right there. I still have him in a similar tier to the Jamar Chase of the world. Jamar Chase is like, he's awesome.
Jamar Chase
Well,
is.
let's ask our Dynasty expert, Jeff. Where do you have Justin Jefferson in Dynasty?
I'm at 3. I have Taylor in one quarterback. I have Taylor and Kyle Pitts above him. I just think the positional edge that you get from Kyle Pitts, I don't know. I'm
Love
way
Kyle
in on
Pitts.
Kyle Pitts, and so that's where I am there. I don't hate having Justin Jefferson there. And in PPR, I could slide Jonathan Taylor down, I think, but I think what you're going to get over the next couple of years for Jonathan Taylor, I think he's going to be that elite running back. So that's kind of where I am there, but I don't hate it at all, And I think that really there's 4 guys at the top of Dynasty ranks that you could really go any direction between Taylor, Pitts, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. Having any of those guys as your number one, and I think I'm perfectly fine with that.
I agree. All right. So those are our safe picks. Jeff, thank you for getting us into that discussion of Justin Jefferson. Glad you went there. But let's get into the sleepers, shall we? So, Jeff, you told us about Justin Jefferson. Tell us about your sleeper.
So my sleeper is Kendrick Bourne, Patriots wide receiver. Last year, on a per target basis, he was one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. He just didn't see that high volume. Now there have been talks out of camp that they've been using him in different roles, trying to get him the ball a little bit more. They brought in Devonte Parker, but I think that plays a completely different role than what Kendrick Bourne's going to play. And really, when you look at this offense, I'm a little bit concerned what this offense is going to be just from the stories that we've heard in regards to play calling, everything else around that. But I think Bourne is a guy that has a great opportunity in a very ambiguous receiver room to take a real step forward and kind of emerge as that star of that receiver room. And he goes so late. And that's the thing of it. It's just so late that there's no risk really on that pick. You can grab that. If it's an early season reveal that you see him in a bigger role, fantastic. Let's go with it. If not, then you just kind of move on.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love that pick.
I like this a lot. I am a big fan of Jacoby Myers this season, so I'm kind of like on and off with Kendrick Bourne a little bit. But I feel like this Patriots team could support 2 wide receivers this year. I mean, I think that Mac Jones is going to take a nice step forward this season, and if he does, I mean, there have been tons of reports out of camp saying they can't run the ball right now. They're having a hard time running the ball. Their run game is really not working right now. If they really want to take Mac Jones to the next level, take that next step in passing attempts, I could absolutely see that happening this season, and they could totally support 2 wide receivers in this offense. And if Devonte Parker, last time I checked, Ryan Fitzpatrick is not the quarterback for the New England Patriots, so I don't think that really matters. And then, I don't want to label him injury prone, but he hasn't been able to stay on the field for a lot of his career. So I feel like at some point he's going to be out and he's going to be off the field. And I feel like that's going to leave Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne there. And Kendrick Bourne is going so late, so he's absolutely worth a dart throw. I like that pick, Jeff.
I'll be the contrarian, and not because of draft costs. Because, again, I think with a lot of these guys as well, we can kind of throw that out of take them, you see what you have week 1. If not, we have 1,000 waivers that we're so excited to pick up. So all good on that front. But my worry, everything I've read out of camp is that the Patriots offense, not just the running game, that offense can figure itself out. And that includes Kendrick Bourne, who in this the recent joint practice with the Panthers, as probably short as it was before they got all thrown out, Kendrick Bourne was working with that second team. He was behind Tyquan Thornton. He's behind Parker. He's behind Aguilar even. I'm not reading into that too much because that,
I
to some
forgot about
extent,
Nelson
Bourne
Aguilar.
proved it. Yeah, that's
Everyone
okay.
forgot about
But
Nelson
I
Aguilar.
forgot about him. Remember Nelson Aguilar?
It's okay to forget about Nelson Aguilar to an extent, but I don't know. I'm off on this entire Patriots offense. If I'm taking anyone, it's probably Ramondre Stevenson and attacking that run game. But I think we give the Patriots too much credit just because they're the Patriots. Of this crew, this is a terrible wide receiver group. This is really not. Of
course it is, because Bill Belichick's a bad GM. Like, that's the reality of it.
that is the reality of it. And I don't know why. Like, I don't see the route for a step up for Mac Jones because I think this is still going to be a similar offense.
Yeah,
This
I don't
is now
understand
also
how they didn't get a wide receiver this offseason. There were so many great names.
well, they
Because he's
drafted
bad at
track
his
star.
job. Like, Bill Belichick built a career on the back of Tom Brady, and I will stand and shout that to the moon as long as I can.
I think he's a great coach, just bad GM.
He's a sub 500 coach before Tom Brady. He's a sub 500 coach after Tom Brady. The man's bad. The Patriot way was TB12.
I just don't see how the offense really comes together.
There's also no offensive coordinator.
That's what I was trying to bring up. I won't lie, my brain skipped a
gone.
beat there. It is now Matt Patricia who seems to be calling the plays, or it's Joe Judge. It seems like it's Matt Patricia.
Your former defensive coordinator is calling your plays?
Either way, you're in terrible waters. It's just nothing seems to excite me for this offense. Like like Hutch said before, if I'm targeting a guy, I want to try to go for that top 24 upside, top 20, top 15, maybe top 24 for Bourne, but I really don't see it personally.
Yeah, Bourne, I see him being more like if the Patriots don't really take a step in pass attempts, Bourne is going to be a guy that has like 5 great weeks and then like 11 awful weeks, and you're going to have no idea when they are. And it's
DFS. He could be a great DFS guy.
DFS, Kendrick Bourne will be more interesting, and then maybe in a best ball league as well, he's more interesting. But yeah, in redraft, it's so tough because you just don't know when you're going to be able to play him.
Cool. Well, Hutch, you are on fire still, so why don't you take the next sleeper?
So yeah, my next sleeper here is somebody that I think could see a ton of receptions out of the backfield. I'm talking about Colts running back Nyheim Hines. I know everyone wants to talk about Jonathan Taylor 101 or the 102, whatever you want to call him, right? But I think Nyheim Hines has some great potential here. I mean, 2 years ago, this guy was a top 24 running back. 2 years ago, this guy was a top 24 running back with Phillip Rivers on the field, and we know what Phillip Rivers did with his running backs, and that's dump off. And Matt Ryan now entering 37 years old, and we saw it last year with Cordell Patterson. He was targeting the running back position. He liked dump off. He liked short passes. If he sees pressure, he's not running and he's not taking hits at his age. Like, that's just not going to happen. That is a no for Matt Ryan. So if he sees pressure, he's going to throw to the running back. And obviously, Jonathan Taylor's going to get his receptions. He had almost 40 last year, I believe. If I'm correct there, I think he had 40 receptions last year.
I think he had about 40, yeah.
But I think Nyheim Hines could absolutely see 50, 60, maybe even 70 balls this year from Matt Ryan. And because even last year, while Jonathan Taylor was great for fantasy, Nyheim Hines worked on a lot of third downs. He got some catches. He got some rush attempts. And if Jonathan Taylor's very rarely ever missed a practice. I don't think he's ever missed a game in his college or NFL career so far. So saying that he would get hurt is not great. But if he were to go down, I mean, Nyheim Hines gets a pretty big opportunity here. He's obviously not going to be like an 80% plus snaps guy because he's just not built for that. But he's going to get the lead role, and that's huge. So Nyheim Hines for fantasy, I think he is standalone value, even with Jonathan Taylor's on the field because of his receptions. And if he gets in the end zone on an explosive play, you're absolutely going to love playing him. So I think the upside is a bit capped, obviously, because of Taylor. But I think you can get a top 30, top 24 running back here with some big spike weeks that'll win you weeks in your like second or third flex if you really need that. So
Jeff,
I like Nyheim Hines as a good sleeper.
Yeah, I think so. We didn't see it last year, and I was really on him going into last year. But then we know Carson Wentz doesn't have that history of throwing the running backs the way that Matt Ryan does or the way that Phillip Rivers does. I don't think Matt Ryan is quite on the level of Phillip Rivers when it comes down to dumping down his running backs.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Yeah, we see a little bit more breakout from Michael Pittman this year. And plus, if the camp reports about Paris Campbell and Alec Pierce are to be believed at all and be true at all, that might leave questions on what the role really ends up being. But I think that they're going to be a little bit more creative with their play calling because he's talented enough that they can use him on the field at the same time with Jonathan Taylor. And I'd love to see it. I'd love to see that again. I feel like I'm a little bit I was really, really into him last year just because of where he was going in ADP and the season that he was coming off of. So I feel like I'm personally a little bit burnt, but I need to get past that and just look at the situation just like Hutch has done.
Fantasy football, you have to go back to your ex, right? Like at some, like you can't hold that grudge, right? Like
yeah. It was interesting though because I was not in as much last year because with Carson Wentz in, I was very concerned because Carson Wentz since that last year, watched him at Philly. I don't know, it's just because of a bias because I watched him in that last year, but I'm just done. He is such a locker room cancer. He is such a problem for an NFL team. He puts up solid stats, whatever. I mean, he threw like 3,500 yards last year. He was okay statistically. but he's such a locker room cancer. He is such a problem for an NFL team, and I was just out on that offense last year. I was just not in on any pieces on that offense, and that included Nyheim Hines. And fortunately, I was right. And I also brought up when I was thinking about it last year, Carson Wentz doesn't throw to the running backs. Like, we watch him with the other running backs in Philly. That's not a huge thing of his game. So why is Nyheim Hines going to be so great if Carson Wentz doesn't really do that? But I am back in this year because I believe Matt Ryan will be the Phillip Rivers from 2 years ago.
Sure. Mike.
They've talked about lessening his role as well, about his being Jonathan Taylor, and it makes sense. You know, we see every year these guys break down. Maybe they do want to get ahead of it. I like this a lot because I am one of the Paris Campbell truthers on Twitter. So thank you for bringing him up, Jeff, because it brought just a jolt of just everything to my heart. But
I'm surprised he's not your sleeper then.
It's I thought about it. My problem is I spent half of my platform talking about KJ Osborne and Paris Campbell, so I felt I wanted to differ it up. But I like Nyheim Hines a lot, so I want a piece of that Colts team. And also Darius Leonard's hurt. As an IDP guy, like I'm obviously Darius Leonard, you don't have to be an IDP guy for that, but that is a big hit to their defense. If the Colts are losing games a little bit more, you're going to see Hines more than you're going to see JT. Just a small piece of info because I expect Darius Leonard to miss a few weeks.
All right. Well, let's move on. Mike, you've got pretty cool sleeper. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this. So let's dive into it now.
I like this one.
I like this guy. I feel like all of a sudden I'm not even the most excited about him, despite him being my sleeper. But Nico Collins, all right, Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. People already forget that he was a day 2 pick, not even 2 years ago. And John Mechie's gone, unfortunately. Hope him the best in his recovery, but John Mechie will not be playing football this year. So Nico Collins will be walking into that wide receiver 2 role for the Texans. Does that matter? That's a fair question. That's why he's going dead last in drafts. That's why he's free. But Nico Collins had a really good rapport with Davis Mills last year. When Davis Mills took over in Week 14, Collins never saw less than 4 targets. He had 2 of games with 8+. He's going to see 80+ snaps in this offense, in my opinion, 80+ snap percentage. I think that's really in the realm of outcomes if he's in those 2 wide receiver sets. It's a poor room. It's positive game scripts. He's a big guy who has red zone ability for a team that has already said they're not going to use Bradman Jordan. They're going to use Pharaoh Brown, the blocking tight end. So take another red zone guy out of the equation. Of course, the Texans could be terrible, and Nico Collins could be worthless. But he's the exact type of upside and youth and just the guy that takes shots on late in draft, like Hutch said before, of early on, and he's going to show you week 1, or he's going to poof, you drop him, pick up your waiver. So I think Nico Collins is a great mix of upside and just overall ability late in drafts. He's a deep threat as well in a way.
Absolutely. And I think there's a world where the season goes on, Texans are going to be bad, right? The Texans are going to be terrible regardless, but Nico Collins can still be good. And a contender goes and trades for Brandon Cooks. And all of a sudden, Nico Collins is that wide receiver 1 because they got offered a second-round pick for Brandon Cooks to win a Super Bowl, and you go for it. With teams doing that now more and more, I think that's what you need to look at in terms of like fantasy value is what guys could get shipped off from bad teams. And
it's
Brandon
possible.
Cooks is certainly that guy.
I like Cooks a lot, and my worry with something like that, as much of it I would love to dream it up, especially as a Cooks fan myself. He got extended this offseason, so I don't know if they're going to move on from him.
They signed to a 2-year deal. It'd be tough to see them trading him.
He's a big culture guy for that team.
He's a good player.
So,
but at the end of the day, guys, remember, like, he got an extension, but it's a pretty team-friendly deal. It's not like they're taking on ridiculous salary.
No, they're not.
And as good as he is he as good as a second-round pick in the future for a team that's totally rebuilding and he's coming up on 30? Probably not.
I think it's a culture play for them, though. And I think that it's one of those things that if they want to develop Davis Mills, they want to give him that weapon that he can rely on. And
True.
I think it's a good pick to have Nico Collins here because, we expect him to be trailing. I think that this is going to look, I dug back, Pep Hamilton, the offense coordinator for the Texans, when he was with the Colts, if you remember back when they had Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen, they were running those 2 tight end sets all the time. And I think that we're going to see the same thing with Marvin Jordan and with Pharaoh Brown kind of running out of that. And I think that you're going to see everything kind of funnel through Brandon Cooks, just like it did for T.Y. Hilton during that time. And then that was kind of the tail end of Reggie Wayne's career. And he was kind of 800-yard guy. And I think that Collins is going to kind of step into that role, be that 800-ish yard guy. And I think he's going to be fine. I don't know if I don't know if I can get around a big breakout. I think that you'd really need Davis Mills breakout as well, or you'd need an injury to Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, you need Davis Mills.
Yeah.
You need Davis Mills.
For Nico Collins. But he's going to be out there. He's going to be out there all the time, and they're going to be trailing. They're going to be throwing the ball.
Yeah, you to see, because look, I mean, when you're this late in the draft, you're looking for strict upside, and you're obviously going to need some things to go right for Nico Collins. I think he's definitely going to have Davis Mills break out. He's going to have to step up in camp and become that number 2 option behind Brandon Cooks. And if those two things happen, I think that absolutely Nico Collins could be there. And also what I love about Nico Collins, I think he is a threat for like 7-8 touchdowns this season. Like he is such a big, as Michael was talking about earlier, he's such a big red zone threat.
He's just a big man.
He's a monster of a man. I mean,
Huge.
he is just ginormous. I mean, he is a huge red zone threat when they're getting inside the 20-yard line, inside the 10. He's a huge threat. And it's just, I could see him score 7-8 touchdowns this season. If you're getting a guy that late who could have that touchdown upside, that's just ridiculous. So, yeah, I definitely love Nico Collins. I almost wrote him down. I did almost write him down as my sleeper.
I like
You
it.
get more, I get Nico Collins. I don't like that trade, but I'm okay with it.
I like it. All right. Let's save some people some heartache here. Who are we avoiding this year? Jeff, you've got a name there.
You do.
All of you do. All of you have
do.
names there. Like this is
Yeah,
hot.
we do.
Yeah, so I've got Jerry Judy on my avoid list, and he might have gotten to camp now, but early he was missing major portions of camp and major portions of the offseason program. He had the illegal situation that went down, and everything out of camp is that there's some real chemistry between Cortland Sutton and Russell Wilson. And I think what you're going to see from this offense is, yes, I know that Russell Wilson supported DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett both as top receivers, and we kind of have that expectation, especially after the injury to Tim Patrick. But I think people are downplaying KJ Hamler a little bit there. I think he's going to have some involvement. I think you're going to get some tight end involvement with Albert Aquabema and Albert O. I probably botched that last name terribly.
I just say Alberto. I don't even try.
I just say
anymore.
Alberto. Yeah.
Alberto. His name is Alberto, and there's no last name.
No.
Big Al.
No, but Greg Dulcich, I think, is a good player too. And using him, I think they're going to use 12 personnel. I think they're going to vary their sets. But I think really this team is going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to run the ball with Javonte Williams. They're going to try to run the ball with Melvin Gordon a bit. And then I think that they're really going to feed Cortland Sutton. And so that leaves Judy for me as maybe the odd man out. And when you look at where he's going in drafts, you're really relying on him to be one of those top 2 receivers for you within your team builds. And so I'm just off on him at that range. And Hutch, I apologize, and I completely forgot that we made a trade a month ago in one of our leagues, and I traded you Jerry Judy, and I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to bring this up at this point.
No,
but
it's
he is
good.
my
I mean,
here.
yeah, I'm not. The thing is, like, I do think Judy has upside, but I'm also not crazy into him either. It's just when
What'd you give up, if you don't mind me asking? What'd you give up for Jerry Judy? Now we need to know.
Man.
We did. So I got Davante Adams and Khalil Herbert. Hutch got Leonard Fournette and Jerry Judy.
Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah,
Hutch.
I did.
What are we
I
doing
took Leonard
here?
Fournette and Jerry Judy. I did. I took Fournette and Judy. I do.
Wait a
love
minute.
Fournette.
How did you do that trade with your bust? What do you mean?
What's up?
How'd you look at who you wrote as a bust?
Yeah, I got Fournette, and yeah, how'd
you do that trade? How'd you? All right.
He forced Herbert out of me. I wanted to keep him, but he forced Herbert out of me. I wanted to keep Herbert so badly, but he didn't let me. It was not nice. Jeff was really not nice. He didn't let me keep Herbert. He didn't let me keep him.
I feel bad that I listed him as my bust because I completely forgot about that until
this thing has gone sideways for Hutch. So this is no better segue in the world. Hutch, who's your bust?
My bust is David Montgomery. I mean, I gave away Khalil Herbert in that trade. I genuinely love Khalil Herbert, and I wanted to keep him.
We're watching
so
Hutch
bad.
just get like unraveled in this trade. We just like we're witnessing just an absolute. This is wrong. This is borderline child abuse. You can't do this to someone.
No, I'm good. No, I'm still comfortable with the trade. I mean, I like selling Davante Adams right now in Dynasty. I'm not a huge supporter of him this season. I do like Leonard Fournette a lot for this season. I think this Tampa Bay offense is still going to be awesome. Leonard Fournette's going to be awesome. And I do love Herbert, and I'm not the craziest Jerry Judy fan, but yeah, I just got forced Herbert. Herbert was forced out of me. I do have Herbert in already too many Dynasty leagues already. I have Herbert in I think I have Herbert in 4 of my 5 Dynasty leagues now after I gave him away. I think I had him in all 5 of my Dynasty leagues. But anyway, yeah, my boss is David Montgomery. I'm talking about David Montgomery here. I know he's been productive the past 2 seasons, but I mean, over the past 2 years, he's just been so inefficient. Hasn't topped 4.3 yards per carry, 4.3, 3.8 yards per carry in the past 2 seasons. Hasn't topped 8.1 yards per reception in the past 2 seasons. Been pretty inefficient. I mean, even if Justin Fields has a solid breakout, this is still not going to be a great offense. I mean, this offensive line is arguably the worst in the NFL. This receiving core, tight end and wide receivers included, not great. And if Justin Fields really doesn't take that step forward and still passes pretty bad, it's going to be a horrible offense, one of the worst offenses he's played in. And then additionally, when we look at his fantasy value and how much we've loved him over the past couple of seasons, it's been strictly due to volume because he's been inefficient. He hasn't been in a great offense. It's strict, and he's not a special talent either. I mean, Dave Montgomery's solid, but he's not anything.
He was supposed to be, though. He was supposed to come out and be the hardest back to tackle in the world, right? That was his whole shtick.
He's not special. He's not a special back, and
he's bad. He's bad. Let's call him what he is. He's bad.
And that volume, though, it might not be there this year. That volume might not be there this year for him. Khalil Herbert absolutely showed out last season. Absolutely showed out in the times that Dave Montgomery missed time. And this is a completely new coaching staff. And a couple of these coaches have a history of using committee backfields in their offenses. So if Dave Montgomery and Khalil Herbert were to split time in a bad offense with a bad offensive line, that is scary. Dave Montgomery is going in the late 3rd in most drafts right now, sometimes in the early 4th. I've seen him slip there. But additionally, when you look at Dave Montgomery last year, 50% of his games, he was not a top 24 running back in weekly finishes. He was letting you down. He was letting you down half the weeks. And this was in games where he was fully healthy. I did not include games where he missed time or got injured.
You can't have that.
You can't have that.
Round pick.
Yeah, because Dave Montgomery is the perfect dead zone running back. He's the guy, oh my gosh, who do I pick? Running backs running out. No, Dave Montgomery. That's exactly what Dave Montgomery is. And he was disappointing last year with the volume even with all the volume he got. And the only reason we like him is the opportunity because it's in a bad offensive line, as I've mentioned. But that opportunity might not even be there this year. So you're losing everything you want with Dave Montgomery this year. And that could happen this year. And that would just, as a 3rd round, 4th round pick, you might as well just say, do not pick and skip it. It's just going to be bad. It's going to be so bad for Dave Montgomery this year at his 3rd round call and just out.
It will cost you a season.
It will cost
the ADP is that issue. The ADP is that issue because when you're paying that price,
ridiculous. If he was going in the 5th round, whatever. I mean, that's different. But he's going in the 3rd round. I mean, I'd rather have Breece Hall than him who's going in the 4th. Absolutely. I'd rather draft Cam Akers.
Yeah, going right behind him is Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman's going right behind him. I think everyone in this call can
all day.
Snap like that.
Michael Pittman all day. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just going too high, and I've been trying to ship him off my dynasty roster with literally 0 luck for months now. But
I've been trying to put him on the trade block, and no one's listening, and I'm not.
That Bears offensive line is one of the worst, if not the worst in the league. And Dave Montgomery, I liked him coming out because he had that he can make someone miss, but he does not have any breakaway speed or any athleticism to help with that ability, and that doesn't work with a bad offensive line.
I don't even think he's that great at doing that in the NFL. I mean, in fairness to him, half the time he's getting drilled in the backfield, but he's slow, man. He is slow.
He's not.
And he was slow coming out.
He's not. He's just so boring. He's not special. He's not a special player. Yeah. And people try to label him as one. He's not.
Yeah, Jeff, where are you at with David Montgomery?
I think you guys did a very good job. You hit everything, so good job. I don't have a lot to say about Montgomery. I like Herbert a lot. I think that they're going to split the backfield. I'm not drafting Montgomery. I said that before. I tweeted that out. I think I had a tweet like 2 months ago where I was like, I just can never envision myself in a situation where I say David Montgomery is a good pick here.
Yeah, like that's
Dragging
just
him.
never it, because you know you're setting yourself into mediocrity. That, I don't know if I pronounced that word right. I'm bad at pronouncing words.
No, you got it. You got
You're
it.
just-
Alberto.
You're just setting yourself into that world, and it's just so the worst. Like, you're just setting yourself into that world. I'd so much rather pick guys with the upside around him rather than know, like, because you might want to say, oh, I know what I'm getting with him, though. No, you don't, because if Khalil Herbert gets involved, you're screwed, because then you're getting, like, I don't know, 13 to 15 carries, a couple receptions a game in a horrific offense with a horrific offensive line. He is not a special talent at all. Like, what is there like?
You're
There's
drafting the
nothing like
RB17 to try to get him to finish at the RB17.
Right?
Yeah,
I have him
exactly.
outside my
That's
top
it.
20 right now, so for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, it's funny. I have him ranked inside my top 24. I throw so much hate on him because, I mean, he's probably still going to get decent volume, score some touchdowns, be okay, but you're not going to like what you get. It's going to be inconsistent. It's going to be
It's
all over
ugly.
the place. You're not going to like it.
It's ugly. It's like when you go to the bar. Hutch, you wouldn't know, but it's like when you go to the
Yeah,
bar
I
and you
wouldn't
order a Bud Light. Like, it's not great, but it is
Oh my
what
gosh,
it
this
is.
I can see exactly. I understand this completely.
Like, you wanted a
understand this
Guinness. They
completely.
didn't have Guinness, so you got a Bud Light. It's fine. Like, it just kind of does the job. All right.
That's
Last
perfect.
bust
Perfect.
for the year.
I love this. I love that.
Mike,
I'm gonna stick on the running back train and stay in that dead zone.
I
It's
love this. I
Elijah.
almost put it.
It's Elijah Mitchell for me,
Yep.
and I've made this vow where I don't take running backs that have hamstring injuries in the middle of August. And I've been touting Miles Sanders all offseason, and I'm tilting on him because of a hamstring injury. Elijah Mitchell is hurt right now. He is not playing. He's not expected to play for at least another week, it sounds like. Hamstrings nag. He had this type of injury. He had shoulder, rib injuries. He had a bunch of injuries last year. And hamstrings do reoccur into the season. The 49ers have plenty of experience with that. The line lost Laken Tomlinson and Alex Mack to Pro Bowl talent offensive linemen. Both those guys are gone. Shanahan's come out and said this is going to be a committee, which it's been in the past, but he's tried to force somebody to be the guy and they just get hurt. I think he's just going to skip that step. He's going to realize, hey, I can't throw Mitchell in for 15 to 20 carries because he's going to get hurt. He's already nicked up. It's RB23
He had
as well.
just a reminder for people out there at home. He had 5 different injuries last year.
Yeah. Oh
He
my
suffered
goodness. There's a
5
different one on the
injuries.
report every week. And
You're
you're
injured
paying
every single week. Every single week it was something.
You're paying the RB23. You're taking him
just
over
in terms
Breece
of
Hall,
heart
over
health.
Dylan.
In heart health, you can't deal with that many questionable designations. Like, that'll raise your blood pressure after a while.
Yeah. I don't have that in me. You know, I'm a young buck, but I can't. I've been hurt too many times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also the thing with Mitchell, people want to talk about, obviously when he was in the field, he performed and he was really good. But here's the thing. You don't have the upside you think you have with Mitchell. I feel like last year he was very dependent on big runs and touchdowns, and he got that last year, which was great. I don't think he's going to get those as much this year. And the thing is, there's zero pass catching work upside here. There's zero passing upside because the 49ers haven't historically thrown their running backs. Elijah Mitchell never really was used in that way in college, and he just doesn't have that talent. And additionally, now you have a quarterback in Trey Lance. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is as mobile as a tree. If they were going to pass their running backs, last year was that year. They didn't really do it last year. And now you have Trey Lance here, okay? If Trey Lance sees pressure, he's going to freaking run. He is not going to throw to a running back and say, all right, let's get 4 yards. Like, he's not going to do that. He's going to try to run for 10 because that's what Trey Lance does. He's super athletic. He's an unbelievable runner. He's not going to be throwing to Elijah Mitchell. If he sees pressure, he's going to be running for his life. So I think that Elijah Mitchell has zero pass catching upside, and running backs going in the middle rounds or late rounds, I want guys who can catch passes. That gives you a ton of upside and a nice floor. Elijah Mitchell doesn't have it. He's going to be touchdown dependent and so big run dependent. I don't want that.
Mitchell had more games last year with 0 catches than he did with 3 or more. I'll just add on to that with that point because that's what he is.
Yeah,
Yikes.
he's not a pass catcher. He's not a guy that catches passes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So those were safe picks, sleeper picks, bust picks. Now we get to the part where tears are shed because I'm gonna ask you guys.
Who ruined your week?
Typically, this would be a weekly question. However, since it is the off season, I'm going to ask you to go a little further. Who ruined your entire season last year? Mike, let's start with you.
I'll choose a guy that hurt everyone's heart last season.
Yeah, I
Talk
wanted to
about
write
it,
it down,
talk
but I
about
knew
being
one of
hard.
you guys would.
Yeah, it was me because it was a guy that always succeeded despite anything was Allen Robinson, who said Blake Bortles, I don't care. I can work with that. Who said Mitch Trubisky, totally fine. Nick Foles, work it all through. But rookie sensation Justin Fields, nah, can't do any of that. So Allen Robinson, you draft him early, round 2, 3, 4. As your wide receiver 1 in some leagues, he went RB heavy. And he came out and dropped the worst season I have ever seen from a player of any talent whatsoever.
It was
Finishing
so
at like wide receiver 81 in like PPR. It was just totally unplayable each week. And the worst part was that you had to have some real guts to cut him because he was still Allen Robinson in your heart. And he had multiple years of top 24, top 20. He was always that. And he just wasn't last season. And granted, I'm in on him this season. I'm ready to get hurt again. Like Steve
I'm
said,
very in.
love
Yeah.
your exes. I am all in.
Yeah, you
all
got to
right?
go back.
But
Yeah.
it was tough last year watching what Allen Robinson did.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking at our time, and I kind of want to move us along a little bit, but I do want to dive a little bit more into these hurt. Mike, I am very sorry that Allen Robinson hurt you, and there's only so much we can say about Allen Robinson hurting you because everyone piled on the poor guy. We beat him up. Hutch and Jeff have two very strange.
Yeah, I know.
picks.
Because I was smiling so much. Jeff wrote down his guy, and I was like, oh wait, shoot, I gotta go this way because he wrote down a guy that did so amazing last year, and I was like, I gotta do that too because there's one player that I put a lot of hate on last season. I thought Devonte Smith was a better prospect, and I said that on Twitter a lot. I mean, I've got the Devonte Smith jersey on right now. I said Smith was a better prospect. I said he was a better talent. I said he was better for fantasy this year, and I avoided this player at all costs. And I've been roasted on Twitter so much for this take, and it was Jamar Chase. I called him one of the busts of the draft, and I have never been hated more in my entire life at anything than when I said Jamar Chase is a bust of this draft. And after the season he's had, it's been horrific. And Jamar Chase, especially in the finals, because I had a finals game where he killed me, and it absolutely sucks. Jamar Chase, every week I just saw a highlight play of him. I was like, gosh, dang it. I mean, he just rubbed it in my face every week, and it sucked. It really did. And it was just so frustrating to watch him every single week just make highlight play after highlight play. And I was like, I said this guy was a bust. I said this guy was an awful fantasy pick. And he's going out and doing this. And I didn't have him on a single roster. I don't have him in a single dynasty team. And I am upset. I'm very upset about it. So Jamar Chase is a guy that hurt me last year by being so awesome. I wrote down Ronald Jones because I liked Ronald Jones last year.
That's what I saw. I originally saw you put down Ronald
wrote
Jones.
down
That
Ronald
makes
Jones.
sense.
While Michael was talking, I wrote down had Ronald Jones, and then I wrote down Jamar Chase because Ronald Jones, I did like him over Leonard Fournette. I did believe that he was the better runner, and unfortunately that didn't work out. So I did get some Leonard Fournette. I got some Ronald Jones, but I did like Ronald Jones a little bit more, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But I wrote down when I saw Joe Burrow, I was like, oh my gosh, Jamar Chase. I've been hated so much for that take. I have to write down Jamar Chase.
And in a similar vein, I went Joe Burrow. Yeah. And, last off season, I said, this guy's going as a quarterback 1 in many leagues. He doesn't have a rushing upside. He's coming off injury. That offensive line is iffy. Those receivers are young. And, I was really off on Joe Burrow. And I lost so many playoff games to Joe Burrow in the playoffs because all these Superflex leagues dynasty leagues that I'm in, Joe Burrow swung titles last year, and I did not have him at all. And so that was the guy that number one guy that ruined my season, because if you remember back, both the semifinals and the championship round, he went off with T. Higgins one round, and then he went off with Jamar Chase the next round, and it just absolutely killed me, and it cost me so many leagues. So Joe Burrow really ruined my season last year, and you know, he went to the Super Bowl too, and you can see I'm a Bills fan. The Bills didn't go to the Super Bowl, but Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl, so
Yeah.
you know, and I have a hard time rooting against him. I'm wearing my Ohio Bobcats, and he's from Athens, Ohio, and I've always loved him. And I, even in high school, like I watched him play the state championship game in high school. So going back, like he's been a guy that I followed his career closely, and I really, really like him a lot. But he really ruined my season last year.
Yeah, and last year with Jamar Chase, I was also a super huge T. Higgins fan. I still am to this day. I was always a Higgins guy. Absolutely loved him out of Clemson. Like, he was just my guy. And I was like, no, Jamar Chase, you're going to stink. T. Higgins is going to be awesome. And then he ruined it.
And I'm a Steelers fan, so it was just terrible all over.
Yes. Oh, my God.
So Jamar Chase ruined everyone's year.
Jamar Chase hurt everybody.
Yes, he did.
Everyone got hurt by Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. All right, guys, we're gonna move on to a rapid fire portion of this program. So I'm gonna start with your plug for your guy. I'm gonna ask each of you, give me your guy, give me like 30 seconds about why they're your guy, and then we're gonna dive into some rapid fire Q&A. If you haven't looked at the sheet yet, don't look at the sheet yet, because we want honest answers on these. Okay. All right. Hutch, who's your guy this year?
My guy for this year. I mean, I got an Eagles poster behind me here. I've got the Devonte Smith jersey on. I'm an Eagles fan. I even got a Miles Sanders signed helmet over there. I mean, I'm a Jalen Hurts guy this year. Jalen Hurts is absolutely my guy this year. I've got him ranked as the top 3 quarterback in the first tier with Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. I mean, last year he was a top 6 quarterback in points per game when he was healthy on the field in those first 10 weeks. And he was basically dead last in every statistical passing category that has ever existed and will ever exist. He was so bad last year as a passer. It was awful watching him play. But then you look at your phone at the end of the game, 22 fantasy points. Great. Like, Jalen Hurts was great for fantasy. And he was playing last year with Devonte Smith and Dallas Goedert. I mean, Devonte Smith was a rookie last year. Dallas Goedert still had to deal with Zach Ertz in the first half, and then had to slowly emerge. But now he's got A.J. Brown, absolute stud, who I believe is personally a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I think outside DK Metcalf, I think he's the freakiest athlete at wide receiver in the NFL. You got Devonte Smith stepping into his second season, making some plays at camp already, making a nice breakout this season. I think Quez Watkins stepping into his next season is also a solid, sneaky, deep threat. I really do like Dallas Goedert finally emerging over Zach Ertz. This is the first year where he's the guy. And I'm very excited to watch this Eagles offense go, because Jalen Hurts puts up average NFL passer stats and the rushing yards. This dude could break fantasy next season.
Yeah.
This season, this dude could break fantasy football. He's going the 6th round in most drafts. All in.
All right, Jeff, who's your guy this year?
Dustin Knox, going with the homer, just like Hutch. I'm going to Dustin Knox. Dustin Knox checks every narrative box you could want to see. He's in a contract here. He's video game buddies with Josh Allen. He's not going to leave the field. He had a breakout last year. I think the volume's going to break out in touchdowns last year. I expect the volume to come this year. And Dustin Knox is my guy. I love him in the range that he's going in. I've got him ranked several spots higher than he usually goes for ADP. And so Dawson Knox, let's roll.
I didn't know he was video game partners with Josh Allen. I think I need to adjust my rankings.
They play late night video games together. They're best friends. They go.
That matters. That matters.
We can pretend it doesn't. The Sabres together. They do everything together. I'm telling you. He's a free agent after this year. So Josh Allen's going to get his guy paid.
Gonna get his guy paid. Sure. Mike, who's your guy?
Chase Edmonds, a guy who has a coach in the San Fran system. He was paid on the first day of free agency to be their running back 1. The team is not playing him in preseason, which is a sign that he is that guy. His competition is Raheem Mostert, who's missed every game of his career, it feels like, and Sony Michel, who is terrible. And then this offense is getting better with Tyreek Hill. There's a lot of touchdown upside there, in my opinion, with Chase Edmonds. And he's also a pass catcher who was the RB17 through the first 8 weeks of the season last year before he got hurt. So he's being drafted around the RB30. He's an easy RB3 who's going to beat out their ADP.
Awesome. All right, ready? One more rapid fire round of questions. This has nothing to do with football, guys. This is to get to know you as people. I just want the first answer off the top of your head. We're going to start. Each of you going to answer these questions, okay? Ready?
All right, let's go.
Mike, what's your favorite ice cream?
Cookies and cream. Easy, simple.
Hutch.
I'd probably have to go with mint chocolate chip, but I like the white colored one much better than the
Jeff.
green. It matters.
All ice cream.
All
Anything
ice
but coconut. All ice cream.
All right. Jeff, we'll start with you here. What's your most used emoji?
Probably the skull for laughing. So I think that's probably my most used. Or maybe the new one, the melting guy. I use that one a lot too.
Okay. Hutch, what's your most used emoji?
Just the laughing emoji, the crying laughing emoji. It's
Crying laughing.
definitely that one.
And Mike.
Thumbs up for me. I get made fun of relentlessly for how often I use it.
All right. Hutch, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, what? Favorite movie? Good Lord. Oh my gosh. What? You pick a movie? Good Lord. Tommy Boy. That's the first movie that came to my head.
So
All right,
I can't even
that's
watch
okay.
rated R
Love
movies,
Tommy
so,
Boy.
I mean, you're taking a lot out of this repertoire there.
What?
I said you can't even watch rated R yet. I mean, you take a lot out of your repertoire there.
Not by himself. His dad can take him. Jeff, what's your favorite movie?
Yeah.
Dark Knight.
Okay.
Oh,
Mike.
that's such a good one.
Dark Knight's an excellent answer. I'll stick on this. I'll go sports, not football, but Miracle with hockey. It's unbelievable movie. Love it.
Miracle. Okay.
Good one.
Shout
Mike,
out to
what's
Remember the Titans.
Yes.
Mike, what's your favorite band?
Band, don't have an answer, honestly. I am bad with music, but if I go just artist, big Juice WRLD fan. Rest in peace.
Oh,
right.
love it.
Hutch,
Yeah.
favorite band?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with him. I'm not a band guy, but if I were to say artist, I love
Band
Juice
slash
WRLD.
artist.
I want to go Eminem. Some shady.
Eminem.
Love it.
Jeff, favorite band slash artist?
Taking Back Sunday.
Taking Back Sunday. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that is going to do it for us here this week. Guys, please make sure to like, share, and give everyone in the committee a follow on Twitter. Comment on the podcast. Let us know your thoughts. Be a part of the committee and get in on the action. Guys, thank you so much for being here, to Triple Play for letting us host the show here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Guys, bell cow running backs are great, but fantasy is meant to be played in a committee. Okay? Here at Fantasy by Committee, we and I truly believe that it is never goodbye. It's just till next time, guys. Have a great night. Thank you all for being here. See you later.
Peace.